A warning, this episode of Recovering contains violent and racist language. Please take care when listening. Kia ora, welcome to this episode in Season 5 of Recovering. I'm Frank Ritchie, minister, chaplain and radio broadcaster. Recovering is a Media Chaplaincy New Zealand podcast highlighting the excellent work of Aotearoa New Zealand journalists. Media Chaplaincy is a team of chaplains around the country offering free, independent and confidential support for media professionals. In each episode of this podcast, I sit down with a leading journalist to discuss the story that's had the biggest impact on them both personally and professionally.
It means the government isn't just facing pressure from Māori anymore, it's facing pressure from its own ministry to explain how they can stand by this bill.
In this episode, I sat down with Te Aniwa Hurihanganui from Te Arawa and Rangitāne. She's TVNZ's Māori Affairs correspondent. She was awarded the prestigious Te Tohu Kairangi Award for the best Māori Affairs reporting at this year's Voyager Media Awards. Early in her career, Te Aniwa worked as a reporter at RNZ and has worked at TVNZ since 2022. This past year in particular, she has covered some of Aotearoa New Zealand's biggest stories for the country's most viewed news bulletin, most notably the death of Kingi Tuheitia and the contentious Treaty Principles Bill. In this episode, Te Aniwa tells us how a leaked document signalled the start of many stories on the bill.
But now, something new's top of the agenda, a bombshell draft document on the government's Treaty Principles Bill, exposing major compliance issues.
We also cover her confronting experiences with racism, transitioning between print, radio and television, and the sense of responsibility she carries with her work. Kia ora, Te Aniwa. Thank you so much for joining me in our humble little studio. I really enjoyed your reaction when you came in. Most people just come in and sit down, but you had a wonderful reaction.
It's so... I'll just leave it at that. It's very small and it's cute. It's cute. I'll give it that.
We're on the cusp. You've just missed out. We're on the cusp of moving to a new building that will have like a brick wall.
Oh, nice.
It'll have a nice looking studio.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with brick.
So you're one of the last that'll just have this pokey little studio that we created to block out the noise. I don't know if I've mentioned this on any other episode, but we're blocking out the noise of a workshop that exists down below us because we're in industrial Penrose.
Yeah. What's this, like foam boards or something?
Yep, that's all it is.
It's awesome. It looks very homemade, but it's nice.
Now, I want to start just by saying congratulations on the Voyager Media Award and your speech. I really enjoyed your little speech that you gave when you accepted the award and the noting of more Māori voices in media, and not just Māori voices in Māori media, but Māori voices like your own in mainstream media. It's very good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know. I said to myself, if I do win something tonight, I want to say something. Mihi Forbes usually wins this category.
Oh, the fact that you beat me.
I know. I was like, what? Usually, like, I go to the Voyagers every year and I'm like, oh, she's probably going to win it again. And she has, like, for the last 5 years. So I always, at the back of my head, think, if I do win, I'm going to say something that means something to me. And I actually won, which was crazy. So I decided to say something about, Māori journalism, Māori in media.
What did your heart do when she got announced as runner-up?
I was like, oh, I might actually have a chance. And my colleagues even looked at me and they were like, this might be your year. And I was like, oh, it might be my year. And then they see my name and it was like, oh, this is really cool. It was just a cool opportunity to just reflect on last year and what happened in the Māori King's Tangi, which was just a massive event, not just for media, but for me personally. Like, that was a moment, a week I'll never forget, and so it was nice to be able to just share some of that with everyone there.
Can I ask why it meant so much to you personally?
Well, because I've just never been part of something like that. I've seen the vision, the archive we have of when his mother died, and it's mind-blowing watching that, and like the week-long tangihanga, the number of people who came, the number of dignitaries, politicians, iwi leaders from every corner of the country, watching her casket being lifted up onto Taupiri Maunga. Like, those images have been etched in my mind ever since I saw them. And that week I was like, whoa, I'm now a journalist and I get to tell this story. And it was it was eye-opening seeing the number of people who came out to honour him. It was amazing being part of a really awesome Māori news team, like looking around and I had 3 Māori colleagues with me. We were all reporting on it for a whole week. We nearly led the bulletin every single night, which is sort of unheard of for Māori news. So, yeah, it was just a really special time.
Yeah, and to see, I guess, the level of reporting, because her funeral had a lot of reporting. Like, I remember watching it, but there was an increase in the level of coverage, I think. And I think that comes down to the shift in technology, but I think the shift in the Māori voice in media as well just helped exponentially increase that.
Oh, absolutely. Like, they had a media room set up. And as soon as I got to Ngā Ruawahia, I went and had a look, and just every Māori journalist you could think of was in that room. Not just for Māori media, like you say. Mike McRoberts was there. John Campbell came waltzing in at some point. There was a huge team from RNZ, a huge team from TVNZ. We had like 4 cameras on the ground, 4 reporters. We had an on-the-ground producer. So, yeah, I was really proud of like the industry for turning out for something like this and for giving it the coverage it deserved. But yeah, that was such a moment. Like, we've come this far as an industry, and that was just really encouraging for me to see.
And it happened, we'll get into this, but it happened in a moment, I think, in our nation where it was really good to have the focus put on the King and what he had meant and what his message was, and then the challenge for the new Queen as well. We'll get into that shortly because it relates to the topic that you want to dive into. First, tell me, did you always want to be a journalist? How did it come about?
No, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had like 2 key interests growing up. One was playing sport, and my other interest was just writing. Like, I think I'd kept a diary every single day from like the age of 10 when I started learning in English, because I went to Kohanga Reo and Kura for most of my life, so fully immersed into Reo. Then I went to mainstream schools from intermediate onwards. So yeah, I kept a diary every day. I was always writing. Every birthday I would ask my mum to give me like a writing book. That's all I ever wanted to do. So
what sort of stuff were you writing in it?
Mostly just my daily, yeah, just who I liked at school. Those sorts of things. Just like the everyday of life pretty much. And like in my teenage years, I would talk more about issues that affected me and that kind of thing. And then on my last year of school, my mum suggested journalism because I just didn't know what to do. I was freaking out a little bit. And she sort of signed me up. She sort of enrolled me into Massey University's comms degree course. And I was just like, I'll just give it a go. And I did. And uni it opened my mind pretty much to the industry and to like our country's history and the treaty. And I was at that stage in my life, I'd lost a lot of my reo, and like I was reconnecting to who I was, and like I was beginning to see how journalism could help me close the gap of knowledge and connection I had in a weird way. And I started writing for like the university magazine.
Can I just pull you up?
Yeah.
I don't actually think it's weird. Like if you think about what journalism is and what journalism does, that exploration of story, that chance to find something that floats your boat, that lights you up, and then to explore it. It is the perfect profession if you're wanting to find out stuff. It is the perfect profession to dive into. So I don't think it was weird at all. Yeah,
no. Now that you say it out loud like that, it makes perfect sense. Like, I was just learning, like personally, just learning about myself, learning about Māori people and the history we've had here, what we've been through and how that affects us today, and that all of that kind of thing. And then when I started writing for the magazine at uni, they were mostly just opinion pieces, but it was like an outlet for me to like talk about those issues and like talk about different policies. And I was talking about like mainstream media too, and how unhappy I was with how they were framing Māori stories and that kind of thing. So like it came at a perfect time in my life because personally I was reconnecting, and then during my study I was using journalism as an outlet to talk about issues that mattered to me. So it was like the perfect mix.
Yeah. Can I just say, it's really encouraging hearing this, because on this podcast I've now sat down with Māori journalists who have forged that way, and then some who have reconnected with who they are and have felt embarrassed in the past about not having that Māori part of who they are front and centre. So it's really encouraging to see you and to hear your story and being able to dive in and be who you are without necessarily, and obviously this is not entirely true, without necessarily having to dig it all out. And I think your education and your upbringing are clearly a part of that. And with a story that we'll dive into later, an amazing family.
Yeah. I mean, like, even now, like, I talk to Māori colleagues and they sort of have similar stories to me. Like, I think Māori journalists in general have this, like, lots of us have gone through stages of, like, loss in our lives, like, or intense experiences of racism, whatever it is that have, like, they've all been the steps we've had to go through in order to find journalism. And we all do it because, well, it seems to me that we're all in journalism because we want to keep learning about ourselves and our culture. We do it because we just love being Māori and we love helping New Zealanders understand a bit more about what it means to be Māori here. So, yeah.
You all come, I think, with a bigger responsibility than your average journalist feels. Like, I remember watching Mihi Ngārangi win an award at the television awards, and you could tell that when she stood up, she saw herself as representing all Māori, not just herself, whereas almost every other speech was just, thank you, I got this award, whereas she seemed to carry a much bigger responsibility.
Yeah, it's such a responsibility. Like, I lose sleep all the time over the way I tell a story and making sure that the Māori voice is being represented, or like, I have to think carefully about my role because I know that it really affects people, specifically Māori people. And when you're in a mainstream news environment with the legacy of mainstream media having caused harm to Māori in the past, like, that weighs on me a lot. And I know that, moving forward, I want mainstream media to be a lot better, and I want us to make sure that we're not missing Māori voices anymore, and there are Māori journalists telling Māori stories, and so, like, it is a big responsibility, and we take it really seriously.
Yeah. When you've entered into the industry, how did that work for you? How did you get started?
Well, at uni, I was getting a bit frustrated because lots of the students in my class were like, they already had a foot in the door. Like, some students were already running for stuff like part-time, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, all I've done is written angry opinion pieces for my student magazine. I was like, I need to get my foot in the door somehow. So I just remember spending a whole day just emailing different media outlets asking for opportunities to write. And I emailed the editor of Mana magazine, Leonie Hayden, at the time. Mana magazine, it's not here anymore, but it was like the only thing of its kind back then. It was like a physical print of just Māori news stories, Māori writers, Māori reporters. The covers were just incredible, Māori faces, it was beautiful. And of any like media outlet I wanted to work for, Mana magazine was like right at the top of my list. So I just remember emailing the editor, talking about myself, saying, I'm a really passionate Māori storyteller. I would love if you could take me on. I'll write for free. Like, any opportunity you have, please let me know. And she got back to me and said, kia ora te Aniwa, lovely to hear from you. I will give you a trial. Write me 800 words on this up-and-coming Māori triathlete. And if I like your work, I'll take you on and you can write for Mana while you're studying.
Wow.
And that was such a moment for me. I was like, holy, like, my favourite media outlet, the editor, has emailed me and is giving me a chance. And I took that so seriously. Like, those 800 words I made sure was like the best 800 words I could have written. But I was a rookie. Like, I had to interview the triathlete in Palmerston North. I didn't even have my license, so my mum had to drive me there. I didn't know where reporters did interviews, so she messaged me and she was like, where should we do the interview? And I was like, I don't actually know. Like, is it appropriate to say, can we just meet at your house? And then I was like, oh, okay, let's just meet at the local McDonald's. And so my first ever interview as a reporter was at the Palmerston North McDonald's. Like, if I had my like phone, wasn't even an iPhone, just some crappy little phone. I recorded the interview off, and it was amazing. And I wrote that up, poured everything into it. All my family like checked it over, and I sent it off and just waited and waited for a response. And she didn't get back to me straight away too, so I was getting really nervous. And I was like, I've missed my shot, damn it. It must not have been very good. And then I think it was like 5 days later, she emailed me back and said, this is as close to perfect as it gets.
Wow.
And she said, you can write for me, basically. And for the rest of my university years, I kept writing for Mana on the side, which gave me like a portfolio of work I could take to my next job interview, which was RNZ. And it was one of those moments, when you look back on and you think about those things that really got you through. Like, that was a key moment, I reckon, for me getting into the industry.
If you were going to interview that triathlete now, where would you interview?
I would just go to her house or like where she trains, like somewhere like relevant.
But
It's so embarrassing now thinking about that.
it's a great story.
Yeah.
If you just interviewed her at her home, you wouldn't have the story that you've got.
And I know. I've told that story to a few people. They laugh every time because it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that.
And the step into RNZ, so now we're talking mainstream media.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Oh my gosh, that was like eye-opening because while I'd had, my name in those media articles and that, I was writing those stories from my bedroom. Like I had no idea what it meant to be a reporter. I'd never seen a newsroom before in my life. And so walking into RNZ for the first time was like, oh my gosh, this is an actual newsroom. These are like reporters everywhere. So that was like a big deal. Like even my interview it was an internship, but I was interviewed by a panel of 4 people. My first ever job interview, really. One of those people was Hingārangi Forbes. So I was like about completely out of my depth. But yeah, like RNZ is a special place for me because that's where I learned how to be a reporter. I got taught everything there. I got taught how to do interviews and how to cold call people and write scripts and voice for broadcast and that kind of thing. So, yeah, that year was it was life-changing for me.
Yeah, and the jump to TVNZ?
Oh, yeah, that's even crazy too. I never wanted to be a broadcast journalist, to be honest.
It's a big leap. You've gone print,
Yeah.
you've moved into radio, television broadcasting
gosh.
is a whole other
I know.
game.
Like, it's so crazy to think about me being on TV because I never wanted to be a broadcast journalist. Like that, the thought of that terrified me. And I only went for that RNZ job because it was the only thing like going at the time, and it took some convincing to even apply because I was like, I don't want to be on air. Like I don't want to voice my stories. I just want to write them down and I want people to read it. And RNZ, that first year was huge. I learnt so much and I fell in love with broadcasting, fell in love with being in a studio and voicing your story, like actually telling people the story, not just letting them read it, like actually being able to tell the story with your own voice was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then TVNZ, I didn't actually want to leave RNZ. I sort of was like tapped on the shoulder for TVNZ, and it was hard to leave RNZ because I really liked it and I had some great colleagues. I was in the long form investigative team at that point and I'd only been in there for a year and I loved it. I was really happy. But when TVNZ approached, I spoke to my partner and my family and they just said, just try something different. I've been at RNZ for maybe 4 or 5 years at that point. So I decided to say yes. And TV is a whole nother world. And now I've fallen in love with TV. So it's all really worked out for me.
Yeah, so you've gone from writing your stories to giving the emotion that you can get in when you're voicing your stories and you're conveying what you think. Now you've got the opportunity to do that and provide a visual.
It's so cool. Like, what I got taught at RNZ was the way you voice a story can change a lot. You can really move people with your voice. That's what I got taught at RNZ. And then at TVNZ, I'm like, holy, you can also move people by what you show them. And it's really awesome being able to go out and film people in person, because at RNZ you didn't have to do that. You could just call people up and get the interview that way. But TVNZ, you have to physically be on the ground. You meet people in person way more than you do on radio. And you get to watch your talent on a screen. And then you get to, at the end of the day, after the madness is over, you get to sit down and you watch your story unfold to one of the biggest audiences in New Zealand. And that's a pretty awesome feeling. Yeah,
it is. It is. In the big scheme of things, you haven't been in the game that long. Like we're talking an entry, what was it, 2016, 2017?
Yeah, 2017.
Around there. Yeah. But I'd call you seasoned because your generation of journalists have been through a lot. When we think about the Christchurch shooting, when we think about COVID, when we think about Whakaari White Island, and then everything that's happened since COVID as well, changing of governments, the way the world just kind of feels at the moment. You've been through a lot, and now in our nation, we're kind of in this moment of reckoning of what we really think and feel about things like the treaty, which is where we're going to dive into now.
Okay.
So tell me about the story that you want to focus on.
Oh, it's about the Treaty Principles Bill. And I think I chose that because when I think about last year, that piece of legislation dominated pretty much nearly every story I
did.
did. Like every hui I went to, every wānanga, every major event, even events that had nothing to do with politics, that's all people wanted to talk about was the Treaty Principles Bill. And we had, oh my gosh, just like so much feedback, so much concern, people genuinely alarmed about what this bill meant to their treaty rights. And that all accumulated in the hikoi at the end of last year, which really exemplified how much this bill meant to people. So I decided to talk about that because it was everywhere.
Can I ask, in terms of, well, yourself, but then everybody that you were talking to as well, since you're dealing with the Māori community, how do I want to phrase this? I get the sense that there's very much an identity thing in play, whereas I, as a Pākehā male, see it, I'm kind of observing it happening. There's no question of my identity in play around the Treaty Principles Bill. And I think people can get lost in the debate just as kind of this intellectual thing where they might feel like, well, somebody's being favoured here, but there's no identity question. I get the sense that for Māori, it's very much an identity thing.
Yeah, like I think the Treaty Principles Bill was different to other pieces of legislation. Like obviously over the course of history, Māori have pushed back and challenged different governments over their treaty rights being breached. The difference with the Treaty Principles Bill is it struck the heart directly at the Treaty of Waitangi. Māori weren't feeling like necessarily that their treaty rights were being breached. They were feeling like their treaty rights were being changed and being altered in a really significant way. So that's what made it different. And I think that it was just really personal for people. Anytime a piece of legislation, interferes with the treaty in any way, Māori have protested. Māori have done hikoi. Māori have taken their grievances to the Waitangi Tribunal. So we've already seen that. And so it wasn't a huge surprise that the response to the Treaty Principles Bill played out the way it did. But then, I think it just grew and grew and grew. And then we saw that hikoi, and that was sort of the accumulation of a whole year of talking about it, a whole year of people raising their concerns, challenging it through the tribunal and that kind of thing. That was sort of the climax.
As a journalist, how did you approach the whole thing, since it's your community that you're reporting on? Yeah,
like as a Māori affairs journalist, like I was at the forefront of all of that because it was just unavoidable, really. Like I said, every event I went to, people wanted to talk about it. The Treaty Principles Bill first appeared in the Coalition Agreement at the end of 2023, but at that time there was still like zero detail on what it is. All it said was National agrees to introduce a Treaty Principles Bill based on existing Act policy and would support it till Select Committee or something like that. That's it. And so for a couple of months after that, there was just like lots of concern because there was so much uncertainty about what it actually meant. Like, what is this bill? How is it going to change the treaty as we know it? And then in January, I was leaked a document from the Ministry of Justice, which for the first time gave us a little bit more detail about what the bill might say and how it might affect the treaty rights of all New Zealanders.
So let's talk about this a little.
Yeah.
So a leak. I'm not going to ask you how you got the leak, obviously. When you land something like that, it gets past you, what do you do?
Well, you have to verify it, right? Like, people can leak you stuff all the time. You just have to think about who's given it to you, where they work, how you know it's legit, that kind of thing. That day was a mad day already because I had a completely different plan about what I was going to report on that day.
What were you going to report on?
Well, the Māori king had called a national hui, and he just wanted Māoridom to come together in one place at his marae to discuss basically all the different policies that had come out in the coalition agreement. Okay, so we have the coalition agreement come out at the end of 2023. By January the following year, in those 2 or 3 months, there'd been lots of speculation, lots of concern, but everyone was just kind of shouting from their own corners of the country, and there was no like cohesiveness in the response. So the Māori king was like, why don't we get together, have a hui, let's discuss our concerns and come up with like a collective response to the government and these policies that are really concerning us. And so that particular day when I was leaked the document, my story was going to be about the eve of this national hui. It was going to be very much like a colour piece showing all the seats being set up, how many people are they expecting, who are they expecting to come. It was more like a preparation sort of story for the hui. Yeah. But the morning we were driving to the marae to do that story, I was leaked that document, which gave the first real insight into the Treaty Principles Bill and outlined a range of concerns from the government's own officials about that bill. So it essentially said the Treaty Principles Bill proposes 3 new principles based on the treaty. There were a range of things in there, and then it outlined basically official advice to the government from the Ministry of Justice, which said that these proposed principles bear effectively no resemblance to what the treaty actually says. It said that it risks being discriminatory. It said that Māori had not been consulted at all on the bill. It said that I think there was something in there about how it risked undermining Māori ability to exercise tino rangatiratanga or self-determination, which is a core fundamental guarantee in Te Tiriti o Waitangi. That is what the treaty means to so many people. And so, yeah, it was quite a bombshell document to receive on the way there. And I called up, the editor at TVNZ and said, hey, look, my plans have changed. I've just been leaked this document. Te Pāti Māori had gotten like a snippet of it. They had been leaked a little paragraph from it, and they had been going off on it on social media. So we now have a political party who's seen it, who's verified it themselves and put a little bit out, but I had the whole thing. And so my plans completely changed. I got to the marae. I asked the little tiny office at Tūranga Waiwai Marae if I could print the document. They printed it off for me. And then the interviews I'd already set up for a completely different topic, I just presented them this leaked document and see, what do you think of that? And I remember Tuku Morgan literally just reading it for the first time on camera and saying, and just being completely alarmed. And he just said to me, and we've recorded this, he said to me, we will fight on every platform and in every forum to protect our rights under the treaty. And then the following day when the hui actually happened, the leak was like all anyone spoke about. And the opening speaker, I think Dale Takitimu, said into the microphone in front of a crowd of 10,000 people, she said, whoever leaked this document, thank you. Yeah.
So you completely changed the nature of that hui.
Well, I think the hui we're probably going to discuss the treaty principles anyway, because there was already lots of concern leading up to the hui. And it was one of the reasons why the hui was called in the first place. But the timing was interesting because you had every prominent Māori leader in the country in one place at one time. You had every well-known Māori activist that's ever been, who is still alive, Tamieti, Annex Sites, Hone Harawira, all the big names, all in one spot, and they finally have some detail about the Treaty Principles Bill. So it did become like, the timing was strange, but it gave people something to talk about. It gave them more detail in it. Yeah, I guess it was just, the timing was right, I guess.
And it was rightly a bombshell, because the way the principles were worded in that document pretty much erased Māori as a unique category, as a treaty partner, and put in place all New Zealanders.
Yeah.
So replaced everything promised to Māori with all New Zealanders.
Yeah, like one of the key criticisms from the official advice from the Ministry of Justice was that the bill as it stood at that time changed the nature of the treaty from being an agreement between the Crown and Māori to an agreement between the Crown and all New Zealanders. And that really upset and concerned a lot of people, because the treaty, it was a document between Māori and the Crown, and people have always known that. That is an undeniable, indisputable fact, and it was quite eye-opening to see the government's own officials, point that out and have to point that out and find other flaws as well.
Yeah. One of the big things that you have to deal with, and I would imagine it always goes on for you, and I would imagine it gets heightened over something like this, because those who are angry about these things, they look at someone like Tuku Morgan or Tamaiti, they're somewhat removed. But you're the face of this now. You're the person telling the story that they have access to.
Yeah.
So the kickback when you do something like that, what's it like?
Yeah. There's always kickback as a Māori journalist. Like, even if you're doing sort of non-controversial stories, you still get it. Like, I still get really racist feedback on colour stories about a kapahaka competition, you know what I mean? And so when it is a story that's sometimes seen as contentious, anything to do with the treaty, that is definitely heightened. And there was a point there where the feedback was out the gate. Like, people were screenshotting my face on Facebook and posting me in forums and saying, oh, she's lying about the treaty or blah, blah, blah. It was really it was everywhere at that time. So that was another layer to deal with. It's already hard enough talking about the Treaty Principles Bill because so many New Zealanders still don't really get the treaty. Lots of people have never even read it. You can Google it online and it nearly fits on a single page, but lots of people have never actually gone to the effort of reading the articles of the treaty. So then trying to, communicate this bill when people don't even know what the treaty says is already really tricky, and then you've got that sort of feedback. So that was hard.
I just want to verify that. As a church minister, I took my church through something called Belonging in This Land, which was educating them on the treaty. And I had some of my older people who had never read the treaty. They imagined this big elaborate document, and to discover that they could read it in one page was mind-blowing for them.
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing for me. I just assumed that everybody had read the
it's
treaty.
so interesting. Even my colleagues, reporters. And so reporters, all of a sudden, the biggest story of the day is the Treaty Principles Bill, right? And even reporters throughout New Zealand don't understand the treaty or have never read the treaty before. So last year was massive for so many reasons, but the Treaty Principles Bill, while it caused a lot of concern and alarm amongst lots of people, it was an opportunity to, I guess, shed some light on what the treaty is, what it means, and how much it means to people as well.
Yeah. And when it comes to dealing with racism, we've talked about how being able to give voice to something just kind of makes it land differently. It's one thing for people to hear that someone like yourself deals with racism. It's she gets mean comments sent her way. But I want to read out an email that you wrote about. So this is on a Saturday. You're with your whānau. You've got your niece on her lap. It's a safe place. You get a ping to your phone. You lift your niece up. You get your phone out. And this is what you read. Being sent by someone, you are a European hating member of a slightly brown group of people who represent New Zealand's worst stats: murder, rape, child abuse, fraud, unemployment, N-word mutt, ill-informed, poorly educated, overweight brown pig whose background no doubt involves European sealers, whalers and convicts. Like all so-called Māori in this country, you have a chip on your shoulder a mile wide. Report on Māori gang members, Māori rape rates, Māori murdering their partners and children, drug use, unemployment, fraud. You're a confused joke. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was so upsetting for me when I read that. And which is kind of unusual because I'd received emails like that before of similar nature and similar wording. But I think I was so upset about it because of the environment I was in. I don't usually read work emails in the weekend. I don't know why I opened it. Like you said, my niece was there. I was with my family. I was in my favourite place in the whole world, which is my nan and granddad's house. And that was just so crushing because I was far out. He's talking about my family when he says that. He's talking about me, and he's talking about my niece who's crawling on my lap. And it was I had already had an exhausting week, and I was just so tired. And I was at that breaking point where I was if I receive another one of these things, I'm going to have to quit my job because I can't deal with it anymore. That's sort of the mindset I was in. And I just remember thinking I'm in my safe space right now, but when I walk out of those doors, I'm going to have to face that when I get back to work. And it still makes me upset thinking about this, which is kind of crazy because I've received so many emails like that, but it's just that specific timing, where I was, just confronting that reality that being a Māori journalist comes with that. I love my job, but that is what you have to deal with when you're Māori, and it's so unfair and it's so awful to get something like that. And to this day, every time I think about that email, I get transported back into that place when I was with my niece. So it's really upsetting.
Yeah, I just want to affirm that it is unfair and it's not right. You shouldn't have to deal with it. No Māori reporter should have to deal with it. The argument should always be about the substance of the story. That is a personal attack just based on your ethnicity. It's not how it's supposed to be.
No, it's not. And like over the years, I've found ways to deal with that. But when I was younger, like when I, first started out at RNZ, still trying to understand like the industry and trying to get my feet up as a reporter, that was way harder to deal with because I was still just so new and doing my best. Now, I've been in the game a few more years now, and that sort of stuff doesn't affect me, and I don't give my energy to it as much as I did back in the day. Like back in the day, I would read all of them. I'd either get upset or I'd laugh and I'd share it around and think it was funny. Now I just don't even bother. Like I don't even bother to share it and laugh about it because I don't want to spend any more energy on that kind of stuff. And I know that my work is, in small ways, changing this sort of behaviour. So, yeah, it's different now.
Yeah, well, thank you for expending some of the energy on it here with me, because I know it's not great to have to reflect on this stuff. What I did love was how your whānau kicked in. Once they saw what was going on for you, you told them and read it out to them, and then the way they kicked in was magnificent.
Yeah, it was hilarious. Like, it's funny now when I think about it. Like, I think we called the police. I made like a police report on it.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is really good because I'd done a story on like an academic who received something like this. He took it to the police. So that's how I knew that was even an option. I remember making a police report on it, and then a few weeks later, this police officer called me and he said, "Hey, look, we've visited this man. We found his address and we've spoken to him about the emails." And I said, "Oh, what happened?" And he said to me, the guy said that one of his friends had taken his phone and it wasn't him, and there's nothing much we can do about it. But the police officer on the phone was so lovely, and he just said he was a bit freaked out that we knocked on the door, which is like a win, like people need to know that that's unacceptable. And even if nothing could really happen, the fact that the police officer went to the person's house and freaked him out a little bit was a win, because I know that the next time he thinks about doing something like that, he'll probably think about that interaction. And so, yeah, while it was a really upsetting situation, I hope whoever that is has learned something from that.
Yeah, because that's not just debating the issue, that's spewing actual hate.
Yeah,
it's
so bad,
It's
the worst.
terrible.
That's definitely the worst I've ever received. And he sent that in two emails. So he sent me an email and then he must have been like, "Oh, I've got more to say." And 2 minutes later, the second half of that email came to my inbox. So he was like, he was just projecting, I don't know, whatever feelings he has about Māori people that he's had in his life onto a page, and I happen to be the recipient of that day.
What I want to pick up on in this story is the fact that you had a safe place, though it may have been impinged in this moment because you looked at your phone.
Yeah.
The sheer fact that you had a safe space, a space where work doesn't encroach, I think is really healthy. It's very easy as a journalist just to be switched on 24/7, to constantly be looking at headlines. Did you have that sense of a safe space where work doesn't encroach right from the beginning, or is that developed?
Oh, that's definitely developed. Like when I was a reporter, man, that's all I could think about. And I think it came from a place of stress, not just passion. Like I was constantly stressed out about finding new stories and coming to the newsroom with an idea. So any day I had off, I was looking for stories, or I was annoying all my friends, asking them, "Do you have a story idea?" Like my partner, all we talked about was stories. And like work was becoming my whole life at the start, because I was just a really scared little journalist, and I wanted to be a good one, and I didn't want anyone to think I was slacking around or I wasn't good enough. So I made it a part of my whole life. And over the years, I've realised that I'm a better journalist when I can separate the two, when I have an actual life and then my work life. So yeah, like nowadays when I'm not working, I'm really not working. And I don't even watch the news on my days off because I just kind of want to break from it and I just want to be myself and that kind of thing. So I've gotten a lot better at separating the two and making sure that, my safe spaces or my personal time isn't all about work.
How did you get there? And I ask because I know that there are going to be young journalists listening to this who are in that 24/7 cycle and they don't feel like they can switch off. So how did you get there?
I finally listened to people's advice, even in like my partner's advice way at the beginning, because we met the year I got that first job at RNZ. And even back then, he would say, like, you just need to stop working. And I wouldn't listen to him. And I really burnt out. Like every year for the first 3 years, I was just like this burnt out journalist. And I just made it my whole life and I wasn't very happy. And I began like resenting journalism and often found myself even dealing with racism and stuff. I was often finding myself in a place where I was like, I actually don't want to do this anymore. Like I was losing my love for it because it was just everywhere all the time. And so I think I just got to a place where I was like, this has got to stop. I need to stop. And I need to like switch off when I'm not working, and I need to take my sick leave, and I need to go on annual leave and just take a break away. But it took some time. And I hope, any young journalist listening to this don't wait as long as I did to do that. And I feel like, I'm definitely I'm a better journalist for it.
I think that bit there, it takes time, is really important. That when you start to try to build these habits, your head isn't going to go where it needs to go straight away. You've just got to keep at it. Yeah,
exactly. It does take time and it takes growth. And I just wish it didn't take me that long because I would have had better years. But it was just I was learning so much, and I'm finally got a good balance, I think.
Yeah. What do you think the future of journalism in Aotearoa, New Zealand looks like?
That's a hard question. I hope that it's still around. Like I hope TVNZ, those like big structures, RNZ, I hope we're still able to do our work. And I hope that journalism looks a lot like me. I hope that there are more Māori faces and young women doing this job. And I'm already starting to see it. I'm really hopeful that journalism will look like that one day.
Thank you for saying that so openly. I hope they look like me.
Yeah.
That's really good. I want to close just by saying thank you. I want to say thank you for having the courage to step into an industry that at the time that you stepped in was going through some changes then, and it's still going through a whole lot of changes. It is unstable. It's hard to see how it's going to land. So I want to thank you for having the courage to step into it. I want to thank you for having the courage to own who you are, to be confident about who you are, and to have that sense of responsibility for the community that you're representing as well. Your storytelling is magnificent. You do a very, very good job. And to hear the healthy space you're in when it comes to keeping that work-life balance, for want of a better, less used phrase, is going to keep you in it for a long time. And I want to see you in it for a long time, because there are other younger journalists coming through who are going to look at you, they're going to admire you, and you're the person that they're going to want to be like. So thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Ngā mihi nui te Aniwa. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. I want to highlight here something that you won't hear in the podcast. You won't hear me butchering te Aniwa's name because we recorded over it. I had the wrong pronunciation stuck in my head. But I believe that names are important, and us getting the pronunciation of names is important, whether it be people or places. In the sacred scriptures of my faith, naming provides meaning, it provides purpose, it provides connection. And because I recognized that I had it wrong, we went through the work to get it right. My producer picked it up. It wasn't easy because I had the wrong thing stuck in my head and I was embarrassed. I had to practice it over and over and over again. It was not a nice experience. Have a listen to this. Kia ora. Oh man, I'm overthinking it now. Kia ora. This is embarrassing. Flippin' heck. So I want to thank Te Aniwa for her grace, and I want to encourage us as a nation to do the mahi, to do the hard work even when it's not easy. I also want to thank Radio New Zealand for hosting this series, and thanks to you for giving some of your precious time to listen. And a big shout out to Mallory Kerry, Sam Donkin, Mick Andrews and Josh Couch for producing this episode of Recovering. If you appreciate this podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and share it with someone else who would like it. And remember to follow us in your favourite app to catch future episodes. At Media Chaplaincy New Zealand, we value our media. We demonstrate this by offering free, independent and confidential support for media professionals. With a solid and caring team in various parts of the country, we're here to help. So if you work in the media industry and you want to talk to someone who understands, head to mediachaplaincy.nz to arrange a catch up, and the coffee's on us.